Good morning. YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, whichever platform you watch this on. I um, hmm, I really needed to talk about some things today. I had a very interesting interaction yesterday with someone that I don't even know if I would call it that we that we really dated. So last year I have a friend that works at the VA, and he's a Air Force veteran, and he he knows the type of person I am. He knows that I'm a man of God, and he knows that I was looking for someone with the same qualities. Woman of God, believes in God, has integrity, humility, is a woman who knows how to carry herself in the corporate world, out in public, things of that nature. Because one thing about men is that once we have a little bit of a kind of synopsis of your past, and then we can kind of start relating to each other, then we kind of know the type of women that each one of us would like. So he was nice enough, and he's actually my senior because I am 44, be 45. I'll be, Lord willing, if I make it to the end of this year, I'll be 45. But he's actually 67, so he's in a different age bracket. But still, one thing that I always appreciate is having friends from different eras that I can learn from and grow from. So he's an Air Force veteran. He works at the VA, and he saw fit to be like, because working at a hospital, the majority of the staff at the hospital is full of women. So he took that to mind and was like, hey, you know what, I'm try to introduce Claude to a nice young lady. So needless to say, he introduced me to the young lady, and on the other end of that, he knew her longer than he knew me. So also, she had voiced her opinion on wanting to meet a different type of man than she's dated before, which she had mentioned she wanted to get back into the church. She wanted to meet a guy that was on that same level of, going to church, trying to do the best with his life, things of that nature. So fast forward to we meet, and I always enjoy the first date because you're gonna get the best you're gonna get that person's best effort from on that first date. Like, they're gonna be their best self that first date. But what I also enjoy is that you'll know a person's true nature after that first date, because eventually when you hang around someone long enough and you spend enough time with them, the facade will drop and you'll see the true nature. So that first date was interesting because she picked it, and the first date was us meeting at a park, and we walked around the park, and almost kind of like we walked, kind of exercised a little bit as far as walking, and we talked. And honestly, it was a good date. I hadn't really had an actual date probably in at least, so I want to say me and her, I want to say we met maybe around August. I want to say, let's see, June, July. Well, maybe more like July, August, somewhere around there that we met. And the last actual date I had been on was back in like February of 2024. So we had that first date. Things went well. And then the funny part is, after the date, we ended up meeting up again later on because I felt like we had a good interaction. So what ended up happening, I happened to be in the same area where the park was that we went to, and I was at the Barnes Noble, which people that know me, they know I love me some Barnes Noble, but she had never been to a Barnes Noble. So it was an opportunity for me to introduce her to something different that she hadn't been to. And also, I thought about the fact that she has kids, because she has 3 kids. And I know that Barnes Noble is a great place to bring your kids, because no matter what age your kids are, you could find a book or some kind of game. Because Barnes Noble doesn't only have books, they have games, they have board games, they have music. So I felt like it's a great place to bring your kids. And you can also, without really pushing them, you can almost get your kids excited about reading for fun, and that's a good thing. So all of that, we had that first date. We met up again later on that day at the Barnes Noble. So I was able to introduce her to Barnes Noble, walk her around. She got a chance to see what it was like, and she was actually excited. Like, wow, I didn't know, never been to this place. I had to bring my kids back. I was like, yeah. So that was the first date. Now, we had one more date, probably, I want to say maybe like a week later or so, when she invited me over. She was cooking, and I got a chance to come over. And actually, I met her kids on the first date, which I wasn't really expecting that, because most of the time when I've dated women that have kids, usually they try to keep the kids out of it until we're actually at a point where we feel like we want to like take this thing to another level, and we're gonna be, in an exclusive relationship. And then at that point, she feels like, I definitely need to meet the kids, because for the relationship to progress, we need to see if the kids actually are going to accept me, if me and the kids can get along, and if the fathers of the kids can, not have a problem with me being in their kids' lives. So just to clear up that, she had 3 boys, and so the oldest one was 17. Then she had, I want to say one was like 10 and the other one was 6, something like that. They like had some distance in the years, but not too big. But she definitely mentioned that one of the fathers was unfortunately in jail. The other father just was not involved. So I knew the situation. I met the young guys that first date. They seemed cool. And then, like I said, we had that second date. And that time, one thing I noticed, that the park that we met at is not far from where she stays. It's like walking distance. So on that second date, when she invited me over, when she cooked, she was cooking for everybody, as far as like me, her, and the boys. But the boys were out at the park playing, so it gave us time to kind of at least interact with just the 2 of us alone. So, and I'm not trying to mention names. I'm not trying to say these things to embarrass her or anything like that. I'm just giving you my honest opinion. So when we had that second date, when she was cooking, it gave us time to kind of talk. So as we're getting to know each other, talking, and it's still that initial getting to know each other process where we're just kind of talking about personal things, life, work, things of that nature. So as we're, talking, she mentions that, the place she stays at, it's becoming a little hard for her to cover the bills. And, me, being this age, and knowing how some, not saying all women, but some women operate when they start talking about their bills and you're just getting to know them. To me, it's a red flag, because what usually comes later on after that, after she's thrown that out there, then, not saying all the time, but sometimes she's trying to get empathy from you, and then later on she's going to hit you with, well, can you help me pay such and such and such? So she mentioned that, and I'm like, okay. And then she went into the fact of, well, if we were to date, would you mind me dancing? And I'm like thinking, what kind of dancing are you talking about? Because I know women like to dance, and it could be that she wanted to like take a dancing class. But when I said it, she quickly was like, oh no, you know what kind of dancing I mean. And I'm like, oh, that's okay. So the way it was presented to me was the fact of, I may need to do this while we're dating to help cover my bills, because my current job isn't putting me in a comfortable spot to pay my bills currently. So now, one thing that was another red flag to me is the fact of, so your first thought to help make extra money is to dance, but there's so many other options. I mean, she has a vehicle. I know of male and female friends that do DoorDash, Uber Eats, stuff like that on the weekends to make extra cash. There's so many places like Walmart, Target, those places you could work a little weekend shift. You can even do Amazon, and it don't have to be every day, because I get it. You're already working Monday through Friday, so I understand that you probably want to rest on the weekend, which I get that. But my thought is, why would dancing be the first option you thought of when there's so many other part-time jobs you can do? So she mentioned that. And of course, I'm the type of person that try not to keep things, I try to like lighten the mood when things become awkward like that. Hearing some woman say that she wants to start dancing, and would I be fine with it? My thought was, if you presented it to me, that means you've already thought about it. You pretty much already probably have it set in your mind that if it comes down to it, you will do that. And you're just trying to see how I'm going to react. But my thought was, I can't tell you what to do, because number one, we're not in a relationship. And number two, even if we were, the way she presented it really let me know I'm just basically telling you, but if I want to, I can do this anyway. Which, yeah, she a grown woman, she can. So me trying to lighten the mood, I'm like, oh, so like, does that mean you want to do OF2? Which, you know what that means. And she's like, yeah, I might do that too. And I'm like, okay. So that was the next red flag, because one thing that I have learned, if a woman is willing to do both of those jobs to make extra money, that's not a woman that you want to, that's not a woman you can totally trust. Because any man or woman that's willing to show their private, intimate parts for money, they are possibly willing to do almost anything to make a buck. And I don't really feel that people like that are loyal. Anybody that's chasing money, they would do almost anything, all the way up to stealing and killing, to get the money that they feel like they need. So that was the next red flag, and pretty much what proceeded after that we talked about more of, about like you know, her relationship with her sons, and it's not even the fact that she had to tell me. I could see the way that she treated her sons, and in all honesty, I see now why a lot of times there's this dynamic where in a single parent home where the mother is raising boys, and I can see why a lot of times the mothers and the sons bump heads, because I really honestly, in my opinion, feel like some mothers are so angry at the father of that child that they take it out on that child. They literally see the father in that child every time they see them, and that's the treatment that child gets. Because I watched how she treated her sons, and literally yelling at them and barking orders at them, and it was almost like, wow, so you have no problem doing this in front of me. You have no problem coming at your boys. And she even mentioned that she barely tells them that she loves them, and she barely hugs them. And I'm thinking, wow. But I recall her mentioning that it was because of the way she was raised. But my thought is, even if you didn't get the affection that you wanted, even if you didn't get the love and attention that you wanted when you were younger, my thought is, why not do the opposite of what was done to you? And that's one thing I don't understand about people sometimes. I feel like sometimes people, and I say this in general, this is not just women, this is not just men, both genders. I feel like sometimes we are quick to find an excuse for our shortcomings. We don't seem to want to work on anything. We don't seem to want to take accountability for anything. We don't want to do the work to work through what we might have went through in our childhood. We just want to be able to use the excuse of, well, this is what's holding me back. So after that second date, I saw the red flags, and I pretty much was like, okay, this won't work for me, because the fact that she's willing to possibly dance, she's possibly willing to do OF, and then I saw the level of non-affection she was giving to her kids, and I'm thinking, if you treat them like that, how much can I expect? And you literally birthed them out of you, and I'm not even related to you, and they don't really get much love from you. So my thought was, how much more can I expect? And I'm the new person in this situation. So I took an assessment of the situation and felt like, okay, so one thing I have learned over the years of dating, sometimes you meet people that are not necessarily meant for you guys to be in a romantic relationship. Maybe you are meant to speak into their lives and be a friend. So I began to think of, okay, maybe that's why my friend introduced us. Maybe that's why God allowed us to meet, because maybe it's not necessarily that we're in a relationship, or maybe it's just meant for us to be a friendship, and maybe I can, advise her spiritually, because I definitely knew that in terms of our spiritual walks, I've been walking this road much longer than she has. So that was pretty much the interaction. Now, what was also weird, I'm sorry, I didn't realize how dark it was when I leaned back. But what was also interesting was we had our time. She had to go get the boys, because you know how it is. Boys love playing outside. So she had to go get them, because they were supposed to be back by a certain time. Of course, they didn't come back. She had to go get them. And yeah, seeing that interaction was a trip too, because always this harsh, yelling, like aggressive tone when it's not even necessary. And that's what was really, that was turning me off, because I could see that same tone could probably be used towards me and it wouldn't even be necessary. If you're talking to your boys like that and they weren't even doing anything bad, but that's like your usual tone. So we had dinner. Everybody pretty much ate in their own area. I think just mainly me and her were in the living room eating, and I want to say one of the boys was actually eating in the kitchen, and the other two pretty much had their meals in their rooms. So it was, I could tell that the normal eating arrangement for them is not necessarily that they all eat together in the same space in the home. I see that possibly maybe one of the boys probably eats with her. The other two are probably so much more into video games and their TV that they pretty much eat in their rooms, which, not every family does the whole eat together kind of thing. So what was another red flag was after we had dinner and everything, we were kind of chilling, watching TV, and then she mentioned that her friend was coming by. And I'm like, oh, okay. That was not expected, because the way she presented the whole situation was come over, have dinner, we can chill out and watch TV or whatever. But it was never like a situation where, I got to do something at this certain time. So it was kind of random that all of a sudden, oh, well, I got to do my friend's hair. And I'm like, okay. And it was so crazy how when her friend got there, it was almost to me a setup. Like she really wanted me to meet her friend. And the only way to get it to happen was to have me come by, hang out, and then make sure that I didn't leave until her friend got there. Then, okay, now you can go. Because I just wanted her to see you and meet you. So that's pretty much how the interaction was. I met the friend. We had our introductions. And then she's like, okay, well, it's time you go. Because, we're going to, have our girl talk. Which I know part of that conversation was going to be the 2 dates that we had already. So, but that was that. So that was another weird, I don't even know if I would really say a red flag, but it was just kind of weird. But what I'm seeing is you're manipulating the situation, as far as you wanted to make sure that I did not leave till your friend came so your friend can meet me. And that was like your way of getting her to be able to give her quick assessment of me. And then when I leave, y'all talk about me and our dates. So that was that. That was the 2 dates. Now, what was so interesting is that after that last date, I think I either called or text, no response. And my rule of thumb is I will reach out to a woman 2 to 3 times, and not all in the same day. I'll send a text one day, no response. I'll wait a couple of days. I'll send another text, no response. I'll wait. And I may do one phone call, but most of the time, the way I see it, if you're not responding to a text message, I don't even see the point in calling you, because I don't necessarily know when you're free. That's why I throw the text message out there, so you can tell me, hey, I'm busy, but call me at this time or whatever. So I did my 2 or 3. I got no response. And this is like going over the course of a couple of days into a week or 2. So after ample time frame, I would say, I think I want to say I waited till about, it had been maybe 2 weeks. And I got no response, no reply, nothing. Like literally felt like she just basically ghosted me. So I already knowing that the red flags were enough for me and I didn't really see a future in this, I sent a text, let her know, hey, number one, I let her know, hey, it seems like you're really busy at this point in your life. Maybe you just don't have time for a relationship, and I understand that, so that's fine. And I let her know I don't feel like a relationship would be the best thing for us. Maybe in the future, friendship possibly, but right now, I feel like maybe your focus is where possibly it should be, on work, your kids, doing some things, working some things out. So I left it at that. But I will say one possible text message I got before she pretty much distanced herself for a while. Now, I'm sorry. Let me correct myself. On that last date, when she had mentioned about the financial stuff, she also mentioned that when she is going through hard times, she can tend to isolate herself. So when I'm sending out those text messages, I kept that in mind, but my only thing is, even when you're isolating yourself, you can respond and at least say, hey, at this time I'm just kind of going through it, not really in the mood to talk. I feel like at least that could be said, and then you wouldn't have to worry about me, but I feel like bothering you or bugging you. But so I sent that last message because I wanted to make sure that instead of just not responding, because I feel like that's very immature. Like we're grown people now. You can at least let somebody know if you're not interested, and then leave it at that. Don't leave this person out there in limbo, not knowing what's going on. So fast forward, there was a time frame after that, months later, still hearing nothing from her. Only way that I'm hearing anything about her is that our mutual friend, I think he just found it very comical, our whole situation. So he would mention, like, have you talked to her? And I'm like, no, she don't respond to me, so no. And he was like, oh, you should try contacting her. And that's the thing, like, that I always felt like I don't really care for when you got someone that introduces two people. Like, once you made the introduction, like, just leave it alone, because you trying to, like, egg stuff on, it almost seemed like you want to see some drama. Like, maybe your life is boring and I almost feel like maybe you need a hobby, because you're trying to push this thing and it's almost like you just want to see how it's going to go. And my thought process is, find your own situation rather than trying to egg us on. But that's the only time I would really hear about her, is because he would bring her up. And I'm like, nah, I ain't talk to her. Out of sight, out of mind. So I say all that to say, it is so funny how a hurricane happened. I'm reaching out, trying to make sure that, hey, I'm just sending out a text just saying, hey, are you good? Not anything romantic, not anything like I'm trying to get back with you. I already let you know that I don't really see a future in relationship, but I didn't say that the door was closed on friendship. So no response still after the hurricane. So I'm like, okay, wow. I said, so this really lets me know, definitely, I don't even feel like friendship is for us, because I can at least get a response from a friend in a case that some major hurricane or catastrophe happened, trying to make sure my friend good. So continue to fast forward, and then what was so funny to me is that when, like, Thanksgiving rolled around, now all of a sudden you're like, hey, hope you have a happy Thanksgiving. And I'm thinking to myself, we haven't talked in months, but now it's happy Thanksgiving. So, I'm not a cold person. I responded like, thank you, wish you the best on your Thanksgiving as well. Then here's the kicker. And I started to realize what was happening. She then proceeds to respond to me at the beginning of December like, oh, Christmas is coming up. I'm hoping that I get a card from you. And I'm thinking, why would I send you a Christmas card when you barely talk to me? But that's the part that I really want this video to kind of end and focus on. I do not understand the delusion of some women. You have literally not talked to me for months, but just because I don't know if this is what men have done for you, I don't know if you feel like you have princess privilege, as they call it, but you still expect a gift when the holidays come up. And I'm thinking to myself, why would I even get you a gift when you don't even talk to me? We haven't had any kind of interaction since like months ago when we had a date and then you basically ghosted me. So, you know, I feel like, honestly, the friend that we have as a mutual friend, I think he talked it up. Like I said, I don't know if he's just an antagonist. I don't know if he just gets joy off of watching people interact. I have no idea. Because like I mentioned, they have been friends longer than me and him have been friends. So I have no idea where his loyalty lies. But I definitely feel like he enjoys egging things on. So the funny part was, and I never said anything to her about this, but he was so adamant about the gift that he went out and bought a necklace for her. But what he said was, I'm going to tell her that you bought it. I'm like, hey, cool. I ain't even have to spend no money. But what he did ask me to do was to at least wrap it or, whatever. So I went to the dollar store, got a pretty little Christmas bag for $1, and got some the wrapping paper, or the tissue paper, and put it in a nice little pretty bag and handed it back to him because they worked together, so he was going to deliver the gift. So that was pretty much how that happened. Now,